At this time, I'll call our December board meeting to order. And at this time, we'll have the invocation by Commissioner Langley, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Commissioner Walker. Please stand.
Let us pray. Dear Lord our God, we are grateful and thankful for the opportunity to continue to serve your people. We invite your presence here and grant us your peace to make wise and prudent decisions concerning your people. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please face the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'll ask if any of the commissioners have a conflict of interest. Seeing none, we'll move for item number D, the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move that we take a break immediately after the swearing-in ceremony for commissioners so that those commissioners who want to and those in the audience who want to can attend the swearing-in of the sheriff, that we reconvene at 6:30.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All the,
Just was notified that Judge Sermons is running about 20 minutes late. He's just leaving Martin County.
we'll go ahead with Katie swearing us in.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would like to adjust the agenda so that the time is such that we're able to see the sheriff sworn in.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Whoa. That's a motion independent. Okay?
We have to vote on it.
I got you.
Okay. All those in favor of having a recess and go into the swearing in, raise your right hand. Okay. Do you just keep us on time? That's going to be at 6. Okay. Will you send Judge Sermons a text? Okay.
Ms. Secretary.
Was tied up in court. Does he need to come here and get?
No, Katie's going to swear us in. We'll go ahead and let Katie do that.
Then he'll proceed with?
Yes. Thank you very much. All right, now I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
And a second. All those in favor of approval of the agenda, raise your right hand. Thank you. Okay, we're down to items for consent. Entertain a motion. Well, I'll take that back. Any commissioner have an item they want to pull from the consent?
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the consent items, raise your right hand. Those opposed? All right, so we're down to the swearing in. So, Katie, we'll let you do that. And the ones that are here to participate, you're invited to come forward.
Yeah, Bud, you want to hold up the Bible for me?
And you're going to take pictures? Okay.
Maybe every time, maybe not.
Oh, there was one on your desk behind him.
Okay. Raise your
Everybody ready? Do you solemnly and sincerely swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of the United States to the best of your knowledge and ability, so help you God? Do you swear that you will well and truly execute the duties of the office as a member of the Beaufort County Board of Commissioners according to the best of your skill and ability, according to law, so help you God? Congratulations, gentlemen.
We talked about it, criticized, scorned.
The next item is the election of the chairman and the vice chairman, so I'll turn that over to our clerk, Katie.
Yes, sir. Every year, you elect a chairman and a vice chairman, and they will be elected by majority vote. And if there are 3 or more nominations in the event, the resulting vote tally is 3-2-2. For each of the 3 nominees respectively, there shall be a runoff. I think you guys had those in your book. You should be aware of that. And I will open nominations.
Madam Chairman, I nominate Randy Walker for chairman.
Anyone else?
I nominate Frankie Waters.
Any other nominations?
I move nomination.
All right, we'll vote first for Commissioner Walker. And now we vote for Commissioner Waters. Okay. We can move on to the nomination for Vice Chairman.
Madam Clerk,
Yes, sir.
I nominate Stan Dethridge.
I nominate Jerry Lang.
Are there any other nominations? All those for Commissioner Dethridge? I'm sorry, John, was that a yes? Okay, okay, so that's 3. Okay. All those for Commissioner Langley? And Mr. Chairman, you can change the seating if you choose to at this time.
Is there anyone volunteering to change? Okay. All right, we're down to the public comments, and Katie, you said no one had come forward. Okay, and we don't have any of our legislative representatives here. Dan, for items for presentation, Dolores, our service award.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. We have one employee tonight I'd like to acknowledge to receive the service award, but that employee is actually not here. Miss Emily Griffin with Social Services, she has 5 years in at this time, and she's the only one I have to acknowledge tonight.
Dolores, will you express our thanks and appreciation?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is the resolution of appreciation to Register of Deeds Jennifer White, hers. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Whitehurst was elected Beaufort County Register of Deeds in 1996 and has served for 26 years. She announced her retirement effective December 31 of 22, and the attached resolution from the Board of Commissioners is in recognition of and appreciation for her many years of dedicated service to Beaufort County. If you'd like for me to read that, I'll be glad to.
Jennifer?
Don't be bashful.
So this is resolution number 2022-12-05-01, resolution of appreciation for Register of Deeds Jennifer Whitehurst. Whereas the Register of Deeds serves as custodian and manager of a large number of public records, including deeds, deeds of trust, and subdivision plats, and whereas the Register of Deeds issues marriage licenses and supplies copies of births and death certificates in Beaufort County, and whereas the Register of Deeds has the tremendous responsibility of protecting the integrity, completeness, accuracy, and safekeeping of these public records, and whereas Jennifer Whitehurst was elected as Beaufort County Register of Deeds in November 1996 and has faithfully served for 26 years as Register of Deeds, and whereas Jennifer Whitehurst has announced her retirement as Register of Deeds to be effective December 31, 2022, and whereas the Beaufort County Board of Commissioners wishes to recognize and express its thanks to Jennifer Whitehurst for her many years of dedicated service to Beaufort County. Now therefore be it resolved that the Beaufort County Board of Commissioners expresses its deep appreciation to Register of Deeds Jennifer Whitehurst for her 26 years of dedicated service to Beaufort County and wishes her the very best on her retirement. Adopted this the 5th day of December 2022.
I would like to say thank you for this resolution, and it's been nothing but pleasure and an honor and a very humbling experience to be able to represent the people of Beaufort County and to keep their very important records. And I could not have done that without the support of the commissioners and the county manager and the county attorney and all the others in the county that help us do the things that we do. And I'm available for help if it's needed in the future. I look forward to my retirement, and I thank you once again. Thank you.
Brian, do you have anyone from the sheriff's office?
You will standing back.
I don't see anyone, but I'm happy to read that resolution as well.
Okay.
So this is a resolution of appreciation to Sheriff Ernie Coleman. Whereas the office of sheriff is one of the oldest offices known to the common law of jurisprudence, and whereas the sheriff is a constitutional officer with the office being named in the North Carolina Constitution, and whereas the sheriff is considered the chief law enforcement officer of the county and is additionally responsible for operating the jail, maintaining security in the courtroom, and acting as a bailiff in court and serving civil process, and whereas Ernie Coleman was elected sheriff of Beaufort County in November of 2014 and re-elected in November of 2018, and whereas the Beaufort County Board of Commissioners wishes to recognize and express its thanks to Sheriff Coleman for his years of service to the residents and visitors of Beaufort County, now therefore be it resolved that the Beaufort County Board of Commissioners expresses its sincere appreciation to Sheriff Ernie Coleman for his 8 years of service as the Beaufort County Sheriff and wishes him the very best as he leaves the office. Adopted this the 5th day of December 2022.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. Well, go ahead and do it before we leave.
So, Lynn, would you like to come up and mirror?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Get a little picture.
Okay, thank you, guys.
We can act like we're doing.
Well, I was told 5:45, I was early.
We're going to leave in a few minutes to go to the sheriff swearing in, so.
Where do I go?
Come right up here.
Are you taking it with them, or do you want to get into
We're going to simulate.
You hold this in my hand, and hold it right with my left hand on it. And
Let's smile real big. This is my wife, Lynn Deatherage, and my granddaughter, Mira Grace Lockland. And they were a big help in the campaign. You should know all your friends that voted for
Well, since we recognize them people, I'd recognize my grandson that was up here for the swearing, McKinney, and my lovely wife who is here. And Ed, you want to introduce your guest?
Most definitely. My wife for 49 years. Please stand back so we can get.
I know. Do we have any kind of a status on the judge sermons? I tell you what, we'll keep going and somebody just stop me if we need to leave. Items for decision on the health department. Jim?
So this is on the medical records imaging, what we did. 2014, we went to digital format electronic medical records. So upstairs, we have all these files that date back from when the health department first started keeping records and stuff like that. So I've been looking for opportunities to get rid of all that and convert it to imagery. And so with some extra funds that came in that was on the consent agenda, I can't do the whole project of $109,000, which is what is estimated. I have 2 quotes for that. So I want to, I've got at least $56,000 I can pour into trying to get some of those files out of the way and then come back later to try to get rid of some more.
Motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand.
All right, thank you.
Is this your last appearance?
We'll see. I know there's some on the agenda later on. I might get called up before
I got you. All right, the next item is position reclassification. Melanie?
Good afternoon, good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Tonight we're here to request the reclassification of 2 positions. I know the abstract was very detailed, but I will say right off that it does not require any additional county money and will actually be a savings of county money because one of the positions is a workforce position. And as you know, workforce, we have to meet something called maintenance of effort. It goes back many, many years to 1996. But over the years, the caseloads have continued to decrease, and the federal government and state have allowed us to code more things to our child welfare workers. So at this point, we are requesting, because the caseload has decreased, to reclassify a community employment case manager position to an income maintenance caseworker 2 position that will be doing Medicaid. Certainly since the public health emergency, our Medicaid, we have not been able to terminate. We work the cases, but right now we're not able to terminate. So we are asking to reclassify that. And then, as we stated during our budget retreat, we are now down to 1 in-home aid chore provider, which we have to maintain an in-home license for and everything that goes with that as a provider. So we're asking to reclass that. It will be a half-time, part-time nutrition site manager and a part-time housekeeper for our agency. With that, Kelly and I will be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions of Kelly or Melanie? Entertain a motion to do the reclassification.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your... Did you get one?
You did manage to make that sufficiently confusing enough that...
I'm sorry.
I understood it. You did a great job.
60 funding sources, and they're all different percentages. So.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys want to... Is it going to be at 6?
Mr. Chairman, just real quick, Chris is going to slip next door and kind of keep us posted on it. I know that she said Judge Sherman was running about 20 minutes late, and I think they were scheduled at 6, so kind of depends upon when he gets there, but Chris has slipped over to shoot me a note and let me know when he's ready to go, so we'll keep you posted.
I wonder if he can get a speeding ticket.
Huh?
Can the judge get a speeding ticket?
I would assume. He said Martin County coming this way, right? Yeah. 17. Okay, we're down to items for decision, contract award and purchase order. Nathaniel?
Evening, Commissioners. District's first agenda item addresses a contract award and purchase order for Phase 4 EDA grant funds through the Watershed Restoration Project. Project budget ordinance has already been established. A request for proposal was issued on October 26, soliciting bids to complete Phase 4 of the district's EDA stream debris removal project. 8 bids were received and opened on November 16th. 5 of the bids offered were below the district's grant allocation balance. They met all required RFP specifications. References provided by the lowest bidder and the third lowest bidder were checked. The references of the second lowest bidder were not checked, as that contractor is currently working with the district on another stream debris removal project. On November 21st, the District Board of Supervisors met, they reviewed and discussed the bids offered and other information provided them. After thoughtful consideration of reference checks, the scope of work to be addressed, and due diligence performed, the District's Board of Supervisors approved Landscaping Unlimited with the lowest bid of $67,404 as the contractor best suited to accomplish the Phase 4 project. The District's Board of Supervisors recommend that the Beaufort County Board of Commissioners support their selection of Landscaping Unlimited to accomplish this Phase 4 project, along with a purchase order for $67,404 to retain the services of Landscaping Unlimited.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the contract approval, raise your right hand. Thank you. You want to get to the next
Yes, sir.
Nathaniel?
Yes, sir. The second agenda item addresses a project budget ordinance, contract award, and purchase order through the Streamflow Rehabilitation Assistance Program. The Beaufort Soil and Water Conservation District was awarded grant funds through the Streamflow Rehabilitation Assistance Program to continuous work in removing storm debris from various Beaufort County waterways. Contract number 22-080-4008 in the amount of $334,931 was approved by the NC Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services Division of Soil and Water Conservation. A request for proposals for the initial phase of this work was published on September 22nd. 3 bids were received. The bids were opened on October 12th. Each met all required RFP specifications. No reference checks were needed, as each bidder has worked with the district on other projects. The lowest bidder is currently working with the district to complete a Phase 3 EDA grant project. The District's Board of Supervisors met on October 17th and November 21st to discuss the stream debris removal work to be accomplished with STRAP grant funds. The contractors and their bids were reviewed along with the state's elevated scope of work specifications, contractual start and end dates, and fish spawning moratoriums. On November 21st, after thoughtful discussion, consideration, and due diligence performed, the District's Board of Supervisors determined that RDC Debris Removal Construction, LLC, the second lowest bidder with a bid of $173,496.33, could best accomplish the scope of work required in this initial phase of work through STRAP funds. The District's Board of Supervisors recommend that the Beaufort County Board of Commissioners support their selection of RDC Debris Removal Construction, LLC, to accomplish the proposed scope of work in this initial phase of their Streamflow Rehabilitation Assistance Project. The district further requests that the Board of Commissioners support a project budget ordinance for the STRAP funds in the amount of $334,931 and a purchase order in the amount of $173,496.33 to retain the services of RDC Debris Removal Construction, LLC.
Mr. Chairman, just real quick, if there's going to be any discussion, I just got a note from Chris. He said they should be on time, 6 p.m., and if you're at a stopping point, he'd recommend a break. So
We've got questions. Sorry about that. We're going to be in a recess, and you're invited to go to the courthouse and see the swearing in of the new sheriff. right?
sir.
Okay. Discussion.
I have a question.
Okay.
Sir.
I understand the awarding of the low bid on the first contract that we talked about.
Yes, sir.
But the low bid on the contract that we're into now, that you decided not to award to the low bidder, mainly because you didn't feel like he had the resources to complete 2 projects that he was doing for you at one time, was $111,000 in round numbers. The next highest bid was $173,000. That's $60,000.
Yes, sir.
You know, that's more than 50% of what the low bid was.
Yes, sir.
Why didn't you rebid this?
Why did we not rebid it? Well, the board was confident in RDC debris removal. They felt confident in the second lowest contractor.
But the amount of money in this contract is outrageous compared to the low bidder.
Based upon how much work is associated with this, it's not a basic stream debris removal project. You have to, it's not 10 feet off the bank anymore. This is 30 feet off the bank, tied in bundles, and anchored. There's a lot more to it than just tossing it out of the stream and rolling.
But I'm comparing 2 bids. One of them, the low bidder was $111,000.
Yes, sir.
And the high bid was $173,000.
The highest bid was $330,000.
Well, that's not an issue. You awarded this contract to the second highest bid.
I did not. The Soil and Water Board did, sir.
You, speaking collectively.
For them, yes, sir.
You do work for them.
I do, absolutely.
Okay. That's more than, the bid was $61,000, and we're giving away, the bid was $111,000, excuse me, and we're giving away an additional $60,000.
They don't see it as giving it away, sir. They see it as getting quality work done.
I do. This is the public's money, and it's to be spent respectfully.
It's being spent respectfully, sir.
No, sir, I don't think it is.
I disagree with you.
Heartily.
I disagree with you.
Let's go back to the issue. Why are you giving these people a $60,000 free ride?
It's not a free ride, sir.
Did you try to renegotiate?
No, sir.
You did nothing.
No, we took the bid. Yeah, we put it out for a bid. They accepted the bid, and they want to go forward with it. Yes, sir.
Your board
Yes, sir.
is irresponsible.
No, sir.
This bid
That's incorrect.
And is wasting the public's money.
That's
and
incorrect.
I cannot vote for this.
I understand.
You need to go back and renegotiate this contract, which you have the authority to do under these conditions.
I don't think they're prepared to do that, sir. I think they're prepared to go forward with it.
Well, that's fine, but we have the final approval.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not supporting this kind of waste,
I understand.
and it is waste.
No, sir.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
What was the reason you couldn't go with the 111,000 again?
They felt that the RDC debris removal was better equipped to handle this project. They've been in business over 15 years, whereas the lowest bidder has only been in business for a year. We are going with them on a project because it is less technically involved.
How does he feel about it? Since he felt, obviously he felt competent, or he wouldn't have bid it, right?
He said okay when I told him. He accepted it.
Well, you know, I know what it's like to bid, and you accept it because you don't want to lose out next time, but you want to get a chance to rebid again. But that's a lot of money, $60,000. That's about a 28% difference.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to have a hard time choking on that one as well.
Commissioner Ramowitz.
Can you give us the contractual start date and end date for the Phase 3?
The Phase 3 contractual start date was, off the top of my head,
I think it was November 1st, but
for ETA,
for the start.
for the Phase 3 ETA was, they started on October 24th.
Yeah,
And we want it done by February 15th.
okay. When's the start date on this bid?
We wanted to start, we wanted to have already started on it mid-November. I believe it's December 14th, around about where we want to start.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the contract, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Next item is Public Works, the mega site property search authorization. Wes, you're up.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for having me here tonight. As we take a next step in our mega site project, Feels like we're a lot of steps in, a lot of steps to go. I actually have two items in this one agenda item for us to discuss. The first is we have been working with Garrett and Moore now for many months on this mega site project. And what we have done thus far is, they have analyzed our system, come back with the recommendations. You've seen the conceptual designs that they've come up with. And what we have done is we have, as reported previously, is we've begun a property search. And that's us picking some locations throughout the county we think would be good spots for these sites to be located. And what we've done is we've narrowed that list down to 6 potential properties, and not potential is the word there. It's just from a search. We haven't had any contact with any property owners or anything. We've just chosen sites that we think might would work throughout the county for these sites to be located. Those would be 3 on the north side and 3 on the south side, because we're doing mirror image on each side of the river. Garrett and Moore has assisted us throughout this process, again, with mapping contours on these sites, wetlands, streams, and also putting the potential site layouts together based on the current conceptual design that we've presented. The first item we'd like to bring forward is staff is requesting authorization from the board to contact these landowners of the potential sites and negotiate possible purchase prices. Any final offer to purchase each site would be subject to the board approval and funding decision. I can continue, or if y'all want to do that one first, either way.
Well, I have a comment on that.
Okay.
Unless the board is serious about purchasing the site, I don't recommend that we start negotiating. If you're serious about closing on the site, you need to start negotiating, because it leaves a bad taste in the public's mouth and in these landowners' mouth if you talk and talk and talk and then don't close.
I have a question too.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
So basically you haven't talked to any owners yet.
Correct.
Are you just looking at tax maps and looking and trying to evaluate where would be the best place to go from a proximity perspective?
Yes, sir. We've talked extensively about trying to be centrally located within the county. So we've looked at the tax maps. We've looked at properties that fit the description as far as, they're centrally located. They're not on the main highway, but they're close by for easy access. Wetlands aren't a problem, streams, all the criteria we've outlined before.
How many acres are you looking for?
The 2 sites are a little bit different because of the storm debris site on the south side, but I believe it's around 30 on the north side and 40 to 50 on the south side.
Looking for more than you actually really need.
Yes, I mean.
Yeah, I'm not complaining. I think you should do that.
Right.
You can't get too much.
Right. We're not looking for much excess, but we're trying to make sure we don't run out of room.
Yeah. Well, because you never know what the state's going to do. You never know. They're going to say you've got to move it around, that kind of thing. And we would like, personally, I would like to see you guys be able to use storm debris and be able to maybe do some storing of material there on the site. And I know there's a lot of weird conditions for that, because the state has some very strict regulations and weird regulations to do that practice. So, yeah, we need as much land as we can get. Would you get more if you could get a good deal?
I think that would ultimately be up to the board decision.
Yeah, you bring all those options.
Yes.
All right, that's good.
Commissioner Langley.
Okay, you were saying that you had not approached any of the property owners, right?
That's correct.
But you've selected the ones that you'd like to talk to.
That's correct.
Okay, so it's my understanding, the only way you're going to find out how much they want for the property is to go and talk with them. And if you don't go and talk with them, you're not going to find out anything. So I don't have a problem with you talking to people and seeing what kind of value they're placing on their property. You'll find some who will be reasonable, and then some who will try to milk the county for every dime that they can get. So I don't have a problem with that.
The sites that you're looking at, the engineer has pretty well, and y'all have agreed that it looks like it's a go.
Yes, we've had extensive conversations with the engineers.
So we're not narrowing it down and then find out there's only one option
we don't see any reason at this point where any of the 6 sites we've looked at could not be a good candidate.
Okay. Other questions? If not, I will entertain.
I just got one thing to say.
All right.
I think what's best when you do go and talk to them, you talk to them as many as possible within a day, 2 days, so they know that this is happening, and they have to move quickly because you're moving quickly. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's just create that air of competition for them. Okay.
Again, I want to be sure if we're going to go to this, that the board is going to be willing to move forward with it. I don't want to get into something where we negotiate and talk and go back and forth, and then at the end of the day, we don't do anything.
We'll take a vote and see what the board does.
So, well, you want to vote on that separately?
No, I mean, you're saying what you want.
Can we not all agree that if we pass this, that we are
We're serious.
Well, that's fine if you're willing to do that, but I just want to be sure we have a commitment.
I mean, is there that in anybody's mind about where we're going?
I hope they had spent all this time for us just to be played.
Yeah. Okay.
A motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You want to go to the next one?
Yes, sir. We will report back on that as soon as possible. The next step to this is additional assistance may be needed from Garrett and Moore as we're proceeding with this property search for staff to continue proper evaluation of the properties. What we have asked them to do is put together a task order proposal for additional services. That was included with your agenda item. And what that includes is, as we go through this, we will, and let me state that this is a not to exceed contract for most of this item. So we may not get to the point of reaching this full dollar amount. The conceptual design modification, so once we come up with preferred sites based on conversations with landowners, looking at price, looking at location, everything, we will then take the 6 sites and narrow it down to up to 4, could be less, for them to then take their conceptual design and modify it to fit that site, so that the logistics, the traffic flow and everything works well for that site based on where did the driveways need to be for sight lines and things like that. How do the driveways need to work together? Do we need to have one main entrance and exit, and then, the trucks break off to get to the different areas versus having 2 separate driveways? Lots of different things we could consider there, but they will take that initial conceptual design that you all have seen, and they will modify it to fit these preferred sites. After that, once we have determined what our one site per side is that we wish to proceed with, they will assist us with presenting that to you all. They'll do the mapping and everything and help us with that presentation. And also, as part of this task would be to assist us with any other needs that may arise out of the acquisition process. This is kind of a catch-all for anything that may pop up. There are some items in their current task order that they're working under that they were helping with due diligence, septic perk tests, but some other things that could pop up, or is if there's any concessions requested by the owners that we're talking with, any other driveway or sightline assessments that need to be done, any kind of vegetative buffer assessments that we'd like them to help with. So this third task in this task order would be to assist with those items as needed.
And each one of the tasks has a not to exceed amount.
Yes, if you look in the task 1 conceptual design modification is 10,608. The presentation to the board 5,300, and that's preparing for the presentation and helping with the presentation, and the kind of the catch-all there up to 16,007 round numbers.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm fine with everything you've talked about, but one thing. I don't see doing sketch plans and assessing sites with drawings, because if these 6 sites fit the criteria, that step is not necessary. I do a lot of site work myself, and if you're not to the point that you can look at the map and see whether it'll work or not, then you're not there. So I don't think we ought to go through the exercise of assessing all 4 sites and doing drawings on all 4 sites and all that sort of stuff, because they either work or they don't.
Understood. I do think it's important that when it comes to making that final decision that we're able to see what the ultimate plan is going to look like. I think you all would like to see that. I think the public would like to see that. So that we know going forward, this is what we're going to see down the road.
But based on what you're presenting here, are you looking at doing this on all of the sites?
This would be up to 4. So,
up to 4.
So minimum 2, based on our discussions with the property owners. You know, we may find out that 4 out of the 6 properties are not for sale, or priced way out of the range that we think is reasonable. And at that point, if we've got 2, we'll just do 2 conceptual design modifications. But this task order allows for up to 4. That's why it's not to exceed. So if we only do 2, we're only paying for 2. But if we do 4, we're going to pay the full amount.
Let me ask one embarrassing question of the attorney. Can we not do this as a taking if we really have to? I don't want to, but I'm just asking if push came to shove. This for a public use. Okay. So, and then I have one more request. When you can make the 6 sites, the identification of the sites available to the public, I want you to make them identifiable to me, because I have some things I want to look at too.
Understood.
So just real quick on that, the plan would be to bring back to the board in closed session a final piece of property. Because if we're not allowed to go in closed session to look at sites to determine which one you want to go after. You can only go into closed session to talk about the negotiating stance on a particular piece. So, so if there's some conversation, that conversation doesn't need to be public simply because of you don't want folks knowing what you're doing, but there's obviously the opportunity to have discussions that would not be public, that would not consist of the entire board in a meeting session.
But if you're negotiating, once you start negotiating, that's public information as to the location. The details of the negotiation are not, but the site is.
That's correct.
And that's what I'm asking for.
Right. When you go into closed session, if someone asks that question, then there's an obligation under Bonnie, the case with the Bonnie Publishing, that you would have to say it's this location. Yes, sir.
But I want, at what point will you identify the sites that you're willing to negotiate for?
Publicly, we're not going to do that publicly. We're not going to do that publicly until we get ready to go into closed session for the final piece. Because if we were to identify 2 or 3 of the 4, then all of a sudden the price goes up for all of them. So we would work that, the staff would work that, they would bring that to the board with a recommendation, and the board would be able to, in closed session, negotiate the material. I think the way the statute's written is the material terms of the sale.
Well, I'm having a little bit of a dislocate here, because if you got into closed session, you must have already had some conversations with the owners. Okay, at that point, it's public. It's real estate. You're getting ready to buy a piece of land. The details of the negotiation are not public, but the property that you're selecting is public information, because you can't keep it a secret. If you go to a property owner and start talking to them, they can identify it to anybody that they want to after that. It is public information at that point.
I would say that it's their information to share, but it's not public information that we're going to share until we bring it to you in closed session.
Well, I disagree, but we'll see.
And this is for David. What's the chances of them signing some kind of confidential agreement
Can't do
You
that.
can't. Okay.
I think Mr. Richardson's gonna get out of this what he's angling for here, by following what the law says to do. Sorry, thanks. I think you're gonna find out what you want to know.
Well, I don't care who the people are. I don't care about that kind of information, but I need to assess the location myself. I do this kind of work before I sit down in a closed session and am fed a bunch of stuff that I haven't had a chance to verify. I'm not going to do that.
I think one of the things the Commissioner Richardson's trying to say, I mean, we got 7 people here, and location is going to get to be a concern of all 7 of us. And it's also going to get to be a concern of the public as they find out where the location is going to be. Because I'm already, and I'm sure everybody up here is getting questions about what happens to the convenient site that I've got. Is that going to be closed or does that stay open? So I guess I have some of the same concerns that Commissioner Richardson has, is how do we come down to the location that we all are kind of in agreement before we get too far? Does that make sense?
And Chairman, if I could, that's part of the reason why the proposal from Garrett and Moore is so specific as far as the number of sites, because what we've looked at, and we've worked with the manager and reading all of the information available from the School of Government and all of the case law that's dealing with all of this to make sure that we are doing it appropriately. We understand that the commissioners want to be involved in details that are going on, but by North Carolina law, that's not exactly allowed. So what staff is doing is trying to do a lot of the preliminary, I hate to say elimination, but purely elimination, preliminary of looking at it. We've had discussions with some of you 4 or 5 years regarding this, as far as what you're looking for and the discussions we've had about the mega sites. So really and truly staff, the manager, looking at the different locations, and again, as Wes said, driveway locations, how the site would be laid out, and trying to eliminate some of those decisions so that when we bring you a piece of property, we would have information for you, and we would have, hopefully, a lot of the information that you would need. Commissioner Richardson, well aware of the things that you would be looking at, and so that's why we have that task for Garrett and Moore for doing a little bit more of the conceptual design to actually show it on the piece of paper, because while you are very that's what you do, you understand it, you can look at things and you can understand the concepts. I wanted to make sure that all of the members of the board would have that same understanding for the pieces of property. So it is a very, land acquisition public entity is a very detailed and a very difficult task to do. So that's why we were asking for the authorization to contact and negotiate. And the term negotiate, there's a lot of meanings for that. It could just be as simple as the first person we go to, they may say, no way, honey, there's no way I'm selling my land. It's been in my family for 150 years. You can go to the next person. You guys don't need to know about that person because it's not going to happen. So we're trying to do as much of that work as we can. Again, not taking any power from you, but if there's something that needs to be eliminated, we want to eliminate it as quickly as possible.
I'm still missing something here. If you're going to do an analysis on 4 sites so that the commissioners can understand how those 4 sites work together, how do you do that work? How do you do that without identifying the 4 sites?
It's not the 4 sites together. Again, keep in mind we've got a north side and a south side. So those are completely different sites with different characteristics and different requirements. We were more looking at, and again, this is a proposal for Garrett and Moore. They would do 1 site. We would choose our first site based upon potential cost, potential shape of the parcel, location of the parcel, drainage features, and then that would be brought to the board as far as this is our top choice and this is what we are looking at. And then the board would decide either A or nay, or go back for X amount. That's when you get to the specifics of the negotiation, and we may stay in concept with them. And then it may not work out. We may not be able to reach a resolution. So then Garrett and Moore would then go to site number 2 and do the exact same thing again. And then we would see if we were able to come to an agreement with landowner number 2. So that's why that information is in that task order, because we don't want to come back up here again in the middle of the negotiations and ask for additional funds for engineering services. I'm hoping within 2 times we'll be able to find a winner.
Are you going to go through all that before you talk to the owner?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
And talking to the owner, again, we haven't approached an owner.
I understand that.
Right.
We know that. We just gave you the authorization.
Right.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Brian?
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Chairman, I think from the board's perspective, if you wanted us to, we could certainly bring every site that we want to look at and make a public presentation to the board so you would know everything that we knew. I'm not sure that's the best method to do that, obviously. I think y'all realize that all of a sudden then people start saying, well, I'm one of the people that you're looking at, and all of a sudden my land price goes up. So I think there are opportunities for us to have conversations with you, not in a public meeting. If you want us to present at a public meeting, we present in a public meeting. There are opportunities to have individual discussions with commissioners to help them feel comfortable on the issues that we're moving forward before we come back to the board as a whole. And I think that's probably what I'm hearing.
Any other, did we get a motion, Katie?
No.
Okay. Did you have a comment?
No.
All right. Entertain a motion to move forward with the contract.
To approve.
Is there a second?
Well, let me make sure one thing before we go ahead. You're not talking about doing 4 sites unless you need to do 4 sites.
Correct.
You're going to do 1 site, pick one, the best site. You're going to do that?
At minimum, we're going to do 2.
Yeah, 1 on north, 1 on south. Okay. All right. I can.
2 on north, 2 on south, right?
Minimum 1 on each side.
Minimum
1.
Oh, minimum
One.
1. Okay.
1.
Okay, got it.
Okay, I can vote for this, but there's still a glitch in there about public information on this.
Okay, all those in favor of the contract, raise your right hand. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, we're down to the economic development update. Brad?
Thank you, Chairman Waters, members of the Commission. It's been a few months. My last update to the Commissioners were in September, so I wanted to briefly give you an update on the activities of the Office of Economic Development. Just this week, last week, met with the County Manager and Commissioners Booth and Rebholz to discuss the plans for re-engaging the Economic Development Advisory Council. We'll be sending out dates to existing committee members for our meeting in January. That meeting will serve as a planning meeting to focus on the activities of the council, revise the format of the meetings, consider new membership, and discuss the frequency of meetings. On our existing industry activities, staff has visited and had meetings with Nutrien, Tar River Industrial, Caldwell Marine Design, Pacific Seacraft, National Spinning, and Hampton Arts. We've discovered 3 new businesses that were not on our manufacturers directory that we'll be adding. Those are Waterjet East, Kid Cushion, and Apiary Distillery. We're beginning a study of Beaufort County distributors, warehouses, and logistics companies as well. We've also are exploring early discussions for expansion projects with 2 existing industries. On the business attraction activities, we've got Project RX. That's the developer is making an offer on a parcel in the Washington Beaufort Industrial Park. Project Recipe is a referral from one of the Committee of 100 members of a regional company looking to expand, and we are meeting with them here in the next week. We continue to respond to requests for information from the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina. Primarily those have been larger projects that are suppliers to the Toyota battery plant and the VinFast electric vehicle plant that had been announced in North Carolina previously. Those are relatively large tracts of land that they're looking for, and we've been submitting the Chocowinity Industrial Park several times for those. October 31st, November 1st, we had a partnership with the Electricities. We hosted 2 site selection consultants here in Beaufort County. We participated in a mock request for information as well as a site visit. The consultants conducted a SWOT analysis and then held a foreign direct investment seminar along with the Pitt County. We are one of 2 locations in the state that they've done that for. That meeting we had when the consultants were in town, we met with the City of Washington Utility team, Beaufort County Community College leadership, and we are discussing a possible trade mission to Germany in 2023. Economic Development Partnership Cooperative Marketing Program. We've applied and been accepted to attend the FabTech Expo, which is a metal forming, fabrication, welding, and finishing trade show in Chicago in September. And at that event, they'll be also having a site consultant event for the state of North Carolina in Chicago with a number of site selection consultants. Workforce development continues to be a focus of our office. We have met with we continue to meet with our workforce development team that includes Beaufort County Community College, Beaufort County Public Schools Career and Technical Education. And we've expanded that group to include Rivers East Workforce Development Board, NC Works, Vocational Rehab, and other partners. We're going to be meeting monthly, and then we're going to host 2 annual events for employers to access resources that this team has in their portfolio. We continue to implement the Made in Beaufort campaign as well as the Rivers East Academy, which is a career teacher externships for teachers in the public school systems in a 4-county region to learn about modern manufacturing. Zachary Allen, which is our Lead for America Fellow, has continued to work on a web portal for local jobs and training resources. Entrepreneurship and small business. We are engaged with the Rise 29 program at ECU to assist small businesses for the current semester as well as the upcoming semester. We hosted the team of ECU interns for a tour of Beaufort County and had a presentation from our office as well as the owner of the L Hotel. We met with the new Beaufort County Community College Small Business Center Director, Jack Dugan. He is replacing Lent Stowe, who's retiring. We met with David Mayo, Director of the CRISP Small Business Resource Center at East Carolina, which is a part of the Miller School of Entrepreneurship, regarding some opportunities for the town of Aurora. And we've engaged with the Small Business Technology Development Center, one of their employees, Rob Bauer, who's assisting 2 industrial clients that are considering expansion. We continue to discuss site and building development. Electricities in that mock RFI and site visit had kind of caused me to kind of focus some attention on the site due diligence reports that we have available for our industrial product. We're looking at all the site studies and the maps that we have for both the Washington Beaufort Industrial Park as well as the Chocowinity Industrial Park. And I've met with a civil engineering firm to discuss possibly updating those studies and reformatting them in a kind of a modern format that would be more ease of use for our clients. We also are assisting the Washington Warren Airport Authority and the director with their industrial park site development. Their due diligence studies. We've collected the existing studies and submitting to the Electricities consultant that's helping them with that for their Smart Site program. We also are researching grant opportunities for some infrastructure out at that site. We also continue our search for available buildings that can be listed on our site and building database. We also have started more of a long-term search for additional industrial sites, possible industrial parks, as these fill up if we're successful. Also, we have applied for the North Carolina Railroad Company, has a Build Ready Site program that would provide grant funds to make the Beaufort County Industrial Site at Chocowinity some more infrastructure out there like a rail spur to be able to serve possible industrial clients. Also spoke with Duke Energy's regional economic developer that also pledged some additional funds to help to get that site more shovel ready. We also continue to assist the town of Aurora on planning for their industrial park. We hold regular meetings with their team, and we've continued to explore possible grant opportunities for that project. Partnerships, I'm participating in the Washington Beaufort County Chamber of Commerce Leadership Beaufort program, and was recently notified that I've been appointed to the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina's Advisory Council. That is one of 16 economic development practitioners across the state. One, I'll be one of the two that are in our Northeast Prosperity Zone, the other one being Halifax County's economic developer. I'll be completing an unexpired term for 1 year of a person that's moved, and I'll be followed by a 4-year term with a possibility to extend to another 4-year term. We continue to serve East Carolina University's RISE 29 Advisory Council. That is a group of economic development leaders from Beaufort, Pitt, Martin, and Hyde. We met recently to discuss the success of the program as well as the current Golden Leaf grant status and plan for the long-term sustainability of the program. Beaufort County has been a very active partner in that. Since the project has started, we've completed 25 projects that have comprised the work of 50 students from East Carolina working along with Beaufort County businesses. Marketing, we created a slide deck overview presentation for Beaufort County that we'll keep revising and use for all client activities or presentations by our office. We are considering a social media plan for 2023, more regular postings on LinkedIn and Facebook to get the word out about all the great reasons to invest in Beaufort County and the work of our office. We also are studying our current website and best practices to see improvements to our website that we may consider in the next year. We also are creating a list of marketing materials and collateral documents that we need to create to make it more user-friendly for industrial clients as they look at us. We also are participating with the Washington Warren Air and Drone Show, which will be held December 17th, 2022. We will be having a Beaufort County Economic Development booth and provide materials to all the folks visiting the community to take part in that opportunity at the airport. And also, just last, we've subscribed to the Esri Business Analyst Online software package that provides detailed demographics, consumer spending information, statistics, business data, traffic counts, and population information that we'll use for a number of economic development activities like responding to RFIs as well as helping small business and entrepreneurs as they consider investing in Beaufort County. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions of Brad? I think this might be a good time. Katie sent out a notice today reminding the commissioners of the Saturday, December the 17th, which is the drone show. If you have not responded to her and you want to be there on the 17th, she will do the registration. And there's also 2 invitations with the email. So I understand they've limited the number to 3,000 at the drone show. I think there's a cap on that. And so make sure that otherwise you might not get a ticket. You've got to have a ticket to be there.
And I would encourage the public to go to the Washington Warren Airport website for more information about tickets and the event.
Okay. Other comments, questions? Thank you very much, Brad.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Brad, I hear Apple's wanting to get out of China.
They have had run into some issues. I read today that they were going to move some of their manufacturing to India and always encourage them to come back to the States for that.
Have they heard of Chocowinity? That used to be called the Indians. You remember that? That was their mascot years ago at the high school.
We've had some good feedback actually on that Chocowinity Park. I think it's kind of below the radar, understanding that we've got a rail surf site with that many acres there right on Highway 17. So we think 2023 will be a good year for marketing that once we get some additional work done out there.
Thank you. We're going to take a 15-minute break, and we'll be back shortly. Okay, we're back from the break. This time we're down to the finance report. Anita?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just set a piece of paper in front of everyone's chair during the break that shows the sales tax distribution for September. Our sales tax for September is $1,161,341, and you'll notice percentage-wise that is up 31% compared to the same month last year. So sales tax continues to be very unpredictable. If you go over to the right there, you can see we're currently running almost a $2 million surplus on sales tax if we annualize that for the rest of the year. Also, want to let everyone know that the audit for last year is complete. I received a draft last week. We have a Finance Committee meeting tomorrow at 3 o'clock. I'll be doing a deep dive into the audit report with the Finance Committee members, but of course everyone from the public and from the board's invited to attend. The auditor will be here next month at your January meeting to do his presentation of last year's audit. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Then item number 2, the Copy Pro copier printer contract renewal.
Yes, sir. We're up for renewal on our copier and printer lease. Currently, we are with Copy Pro. Been very satisfied with the services that they've offered us over the last 5 years. Actually did a walkthrough with the Copy Pro representative and the purchasing agent with all the departments to assess the needs, to make sure the needs were being met there. And there was some recommended changes, some upgrades of some equipment. And I'm happy to say that the renewal for the contract they've offered us comes at a savings of, and there's a typo in your book, it's not $3,182 a year, it's $3,182 a month. So essentially our copier printer lease cost is almost being cut in half with this renewal. So my recommendation is that we sign a new 5-year contract with Copy Pro. And you can see the listing of the equipment and the cost analysis of the old cost or the current cost and the new cost there. And also Copy Pro is an approved cooperative purchasing member with the state of North Carolina, and that allows us not to bid out this contract and just use them directly.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Any questions of Anita? All those in favor of the 5-year contract with Copy Pro, raise your right hand. Thank you. We're down to the manager's items. The first one is the appointment to fill the unexpired term of Register of Deeds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So this is the item that you had on your meeting agenda last month. There was some action that was taken by the board to notify the Beaufort County Republican Party that you asked them to do some additional information, bring you back that information. That request was passed on. We've not received any additional information, so this is the same, essentially the agenda item you had before, so we'll leave that to the board's action.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Discussion?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to vote for this individual. Reasons I'm not voting for this individual is that, and I recommend that the board not install this individual, that we install the second individual who was placed in front of the executive committee, Tim Melton. And the reason for that is the chairman of the Beaufort County Republican Party held the information about the vacancy in her pocket through an executive committee meeting, and she works for the executive committee, withheld the information, kept it secret, and then gave a quick notice that she was the applicant for this particular job. Where I'm from, that's unethical, and it shouldn't happen. Then it came to the executive committee meeting on very short notice, without the other person who was applying receiving any information so that he could make an effective presentation to the executive committee, and that is unethical. The meeting for reconsideration, the commissioners at our last meeting asked the Beaufort County Executive Committee to reconsider, send us a better qualified candidate, because in my opinion this candidate is not qualified, and that meeting was canceled by the person who wants the job as Register of Deeds. Back to unethical. There is just too many items that involve this individual for us to place her in a position of responsibility for Beaufort County. I've heard all the arguments that we must approve whoever the executive committee comes up with. That is not true. The law says that we shall consult. We have attempted to consult, and we have not received any information back. Consulting is a two-way street. So those of you who are political hacks that want to take the easy way out can vote to put this individual in, but I'm not going to do it. I think we should appoint the individual who is qualified to do this job rather than the individual who has unethically picked this job off by withholding information from proper authorities.
Yes, Commissioner Rebel.
First, there wasn't any hidden notification about this. Everybody in Beaufort County could know about it if they wanted to. It was in the paper.
Not true.
It is too true.
It is not true. What you said is an untruth.
Commissioner Richardson, I'll allow you some more time. Let him finish.
You also conveniently left out the second half of the law, which says you shall appoint. It doesn't give you a choice. The third part of it you left out is that in 2006, this board voted to go from 2 people nominees to 1, of which you were part of, and you voted in favor of that. So right now, all of the legal advice that we've gotten or seen says that we have to go forward and shall accept this person. And therefore, I'm voting in favor of it.
Well, let's go back to...
Give you a minute.
The news, well, I need more than a minute, Mr. Chairman, and I insist on the importance of this item taking more than a minute. The newspaper that is spurious, that came out in the newspaper long after this person had announced that she wanted this job and withheld the information. It was not announced to the public in front. The decision had been made when it came out in the newspaper. So saying that it was advertised in the newspaper is not true. The second half of the law says we must appoint. We shall appoint. I don't have a problem with that. But you have to read all the law. It says consult, and that means that we have a right to say that an individual is not acceptable. This board voted 5-2 to send it back to the executive committee, and our motion said for a better qualified candidate. The individual who's getting the job and wants the job canceled the meeting that was supposed to consider the response for that. So, you know, we have enough problem in politics with ethics and dishonesty. This is a classic example of raw, rot gut politics, and I'm in that party. I am sorry to say, I apologize for that to the public, but I am not going to vote for someone who has acted so unethically at every opportunity that they have had.
Any other comment?
I got just one. I understand what Mr. Richardson said, and I also understand what the law says too. I mean, there's no other word that you can get around shall, and shall was put in there for a reason. And when you write up statute, and correct me if I'm wrong, when they give you some leadway, it says may. But shall, you don't have none. You got to do exactly what the law says. And as much as you may think that she's unethical, I'm not going to let the public say the same about me for violating and breaking the law. I'm going to vote for her.
Well, as it relates to the procedure of the executive committee, I was at the meeting. There was no motion from the floor to defer the action and allow more time. There was no nominations from the floor, and we took the vote. And the candidate that was submitted won in that vote. It was secret ballot with, and is now the executive committee's recommendation to fill the unexpired term. So This time, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the recommendation for the appointment of Carolyn Garris, raise your right hand. I'm assuming this is effective January the 1st? January the 1st? Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Thank you. Item number 2 is establish the salary for the new Register of Deeds. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So in this agenda item, you have several things. You have the county's pay plan. You have an email exchange I had with Charles Zipzak, who is the Register of Deeds expert at the School of Government regarding those things. You also have a blog site which is talking about determining the pay of elected officials. It talks specifically about the sheriff, but it also applies to the Register of Deeds, as you'll see in that email with Mr. Zipzak. You have a copy of NCGS 153A92, and you have a copy of Ms. Garris's resume. So essentially, 153A92 is the basic statute that governs compensation for all county employees. And that statute says that the Board of Commissioners shall fix or approve the schedule of pay, expense allowances, and other compensation for all county officers and employees, whether elected or appointed, and may adopt position classification plans. So because the Board of Commissioners has a pay and classification plan in place that you approved as part of your budget, and that is attached, we then look to where the Register of Deeds fits in that pay and classification plan. The Register of Deeds position is a grade 76. What we did for you as a recommendation was we had our HR director look at the experience and qualifications of the candidate as if we were looking to hire that person for a position as a department head. Based on that, the HR director reviewed the education work experience, and she recommends a salary of $69,708, and that is the minimum of the range of grade 76. But because this is an elected position, we're making that as a recommendation, and ultimately it's the board's decision as to where to set the salary of Ms. Garris. It just has to be within the range, between the minimum and the maximum of the range.
Motion and a second to approve the recommendation. Discussion or question? All those in favor of the recommendation for the salary of Register of Deeds at $69,708, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, Brian, you want to go to the next item, establish the salary for the new sheriff?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is a similar request to the board. As you well know, Sheriff Scott Hammonds was just sworn into office, and the same statute applies. Again, we went through the same exercise. The HR director looked at the work history and resume of Sheriff Hammonds, and based on that recommendation, let me back up. The position of sheriff within your pay and classification plan is a grade 83. And based on her review, her recommendation is that the Sheriff Hammonds be placed into that grade at a salary of $117,449. That is the midpoint of the grade. Again, that is the recommendation of the HR director, but it is ultimately up to the board as to where you set that salary for the new sheriff.
Got a motion to approve the recommendation and a second. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion to make the salary for the new sheriff $117,449.
Either one of their mics wrong.
Okay, sorry.
Motion to approve.
And second.
Okay, now you got that, Katie? Okay, all those in favor of the recommendation, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay. Katie?
Yes, sir. Every December, we set this calendar for the following year. So we are coming into 2023. I provided the suggested dates along with the planning retreat dates and budget workshops. And just as a reminder, in the past, you guys had made a decision to, if somebody needs to move a meeting, to give me a month's notice, because there's a lot of things that are involved in that. But these are the recommended suggested dates for next year.
Is anyone got a conflict with these dates?
It's hard to know at this point. It's hard to know at this point what the conflict's going to be. A year's a long ways from now.
Well,
how much notice do we need to give before?
1 month in
1 month.
advance.
All right, let's have an agreement amongst us that if someone has something to come up, then they know a month in advance that they could bring it. Okay, well, this agreed for. Got it.
This board hasn't practiced that during the past year.
Yes, we have.
We practice it when you come in 30 days, don't practice it when you come in a week before.
Just want to make sure, that's all.
Yeah, you just had to bring it up the month before so we can vote on it. Okay, I entertain a motion to accept these dates.
Let me ask one question before we do that. How far is September the 5th from Labor Day?
Monday is the holiday, so it's Tuesday.
So this is the Tuesday after Labor Day. Okay.
Okay. Motion to approve them?
So moved.
Second. I'll second. All those in favor of the recommended dates going on the calendar, raise your right hand. Thank you. The next, go ahead, Katie. I'm sorry.
The next one are the board and committee appointments that you do annually. I've provided them for you there as to who's on what board currently. And you can either keep them as they are or make changes.
I guess because I've not heard anybody say, does anybody have a problem continuing to serve on the committee? I think we have everybody has a position on one of these. Does anybody want to move to a different one or resign, or everybody happy? Okay. All right, so do we need a motion? Some of the boards and committees require a motion. Okay. Just entertain a motion that we maintain. Okay, got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of keeping the same appointments? Did you have it? Okay. Raise your right hand if you're in favor of keeping the same ones. Those opposed?
For or against?
I'll go with it.
Okay. All right, so unanimous. The next item I have is the Sydney Crossroads speed limit. If you remember, Mr. Billy Warren came to us back in January, either December or January. And Brian, we passed a resolution. Brian's communicated with DOT, and with some additional follow-up, we finally are getting, I think, somewhere. What DOT is asking us to do is to support what their recommendation is. And the first recommendation is to start 800 feet south of Sydney Crossroads and go all the way past Sea-Tech Neck Road, 2,100 feet. And all of that the speed limit would be changed to 50 miles per hour. There's an area in there right now that's, I think, 35 or 45, but this would be uniform from Sydney Crossroads all the way, which is almost to the bridge. There's going to be a little spot in there and where it goes back to 55. The other recommendation, based on all of this is based on their criteria, is the fire department, and Billy Warren had asked them to consider dropping the speed limit as it related to where the fire department is. But under their criteria, it has to meet 3. It only met 1. But they did take a look at Sydney Road, which is going west towards Highway 264, and they agreed that did qualify to lower the speed limit to 50, and it's currently at 55. So I would make that recommendation in the form of a motion that we support the DOT in changing the speed limit in that area. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Yes.
The first recommendation, you said it was from Sydney Fire Department, from Sydney all the way down to Seatick Neck Road. That's about 3.5 miles, isn't it?
Well, it starts at Sydney,
Okay, and come on.
800
at the
feet,
crossroad.
800 feet
Beyond that crossroad.
towards the convenience side.
I got you.
And then it goes all the way to 2,100 feet north of Seatick Neck Road.
Okay, that's almost, you can see the bridge from that 2,100 feet north, just about. Are the residents pleased with that reduction?
Well, they were
I don't have a problem.
They were asking for 45, but based on
But they was asking for 45 around the fire department now. They wasn't asking for 45.
they were asking for 45 for 2 locations.
Okay. Was that the location down by Seatick Neck Road?
No, but they didn't want to keep changing the speed limit. They didn't want to have 50 and then lower it to 35 and then go back up again.
I don't have a problem with it, but I mean, I'm going to support it because they asked for it. But I just don't want this to be a speed trap either.
Well, the speed trap would be.
I mean, people used to be in 55 after they passed that. I mean, 55, then it go down to 50. I mean, that's the thing that worries me. If we can get the notification out to the people of this, I know they're going to see the signs, but most people that hit the train pass across the track every day, and that's the only problem that I have is
the total miles, because I measured, I think it's 4.1 all the way to the bridge.
Okay.
All the way to the bridge. And I sent an email back to DOT, but they did not respond. I suggested that that last little bit, that be changed to 50 at the same, but they didn't respond unless you've gotten something. But this has taken us a year to get to this point.
Yes, right. And so as you recall, just as you get past River Street's office, it goes back up to 55. When it hits the bridge, it drops back to 45 because it's going over the bridge.
Okay.
Drops to 50, Brian.
50, I'm sorry.
It drops to 50.
So that's the only up and down in that area. The majority of it is an increase in speed limit, leveling it out at 50 or making sure that it's the same.
Like I said, I don't have a problem with it, but sometimes you create speed traps.
Well, I think this will be better for the community if we can have a consistent 50-mile-an-hour speed limit from Sydney Crossroads all the way to the bridge. Actually, it would be all the way into the city limits or town limits of Devil Haven.
I just think I don't have a problem with it, but I just got some concern. And this will still be there. I worked that kind of stuff a long time.
And essentially, that's why DOT is pushing it back to the Board of Commissioners, because in their history, they've received grief over things, so they want to make sure that the board is supportive of it before they do
have
it.
the criteria to be a speed trap.
Well, I've gotten in the last 2 years questions and comments about why do we have a 35 speed limit where we got it at, and so those people will probably be happy if it goes to 50. The petitions were signed down in the Sydney Crossroads on 99 as well as by the fire department. So we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the change in or DOT's recommendation, raise your right hand. Commissioner Rebholz.
Okay, last meeting we talked briefly about the possibility of putting together a task force to look at workforce affordable housing and its impact or negative impact or lack of it, and its negative impact on commerce, on business, on hiring for schools, hiring for hospitals within Beaufort County. So what I am formally proposing today is that we move forward with that, and I listed out on this the possible stakeholders without any names. I would ask that the county commissioners forward names to me of people you would recommend to be on this based on those areas. We would then put together a charter that would be approved at the next meeting. So That's my recommendation. Again, I was at a meeting last week at the college with their strategic plan, and again, the issue of lack of housing came up as a major roadblock for hiring teachers, even at the college level. So it continues to come up at every discussion that you have with other businesses and communities, members in Beaufort County. So some of the things we'd be wanting to ask is why hasn't something already happened? Why hasn't it been taken care of? What is the barriers to it? What outcome are we trying to improve? And how do we measure success? So.
Okay,
go ahead.
Well, I have some concerns about launching into another effort that involves a lot of money and something that half of the federal government is trying to do something about, and also causing problem at the same time, that we spend money and effort in something that really will not accomplish anything in the long run, because the forces that drive affordable housing are national. They're not local at all. And that is interest rates, cost of materials, inflation, government controls, doing away with the petroleum industry drives prices up. These are all things that we have no control over, and they're driving the cost of housing up tremendously. And John, what do you see this group or this board being able to do? Are you going to be proposing making loans to people to build houses? The city is into some of that now, where they're taking money out of their coffers and loaning it to people to build houses. But they say that a low-income house is $170,000. And if we're talking about housing for workers, we have had a cycle of that in the United States that began even before the 30s, probably began 150 years ago, where companies provided housing for their employees. And the mill villages that I can recall as a child, the coal camps where housing was provided for coal miners, and other miners too, copper miners, gold miners, and everybody else. The teacherages that the schools had in the old days, which probably nobody but me would ever remember, and that is where the teachers came and lived in essentially very, very small apartments while they fulfilled their contract with the school to teach for a year, and then they moved on, or they married somebody locally, or they bought a house of their own. I'm concerned that we are getting into an area that already has multiple government agencies working with and trying to do something about, but the forces that are driving housing costs are really bad national policy. So are you going to be proposing making loans?
No, we're not proposing anything.
You're going to be proposing grants?
Out of the box, we're not proposing anything.
Well,
because we don't know what the causes are. You think that they're all national. I don't know that that's the case. I mean, they're building places all over Pitt County right now. So I think the question is, why can't we get some of that development into Beaufort County and provide that housing for the opportunity, anyways, to bring more and more people back here? Federal Reserve in the 5th District in Richmond did a very lengthy report on this, and it is doom and gloom if you don't stem the outward migration, which is what we've been experiencing. The future is bleak.
Well, I'm not sure that having a bleak future, as you define it, is a bad thing. For me, bringing a lot of people to Beaufort County is not really one of the things that I want to do, because if I had wanted to live where there were a lot of people, I never would have lived in Beaufort County to begin with.
This is about stemming the outward migration.
I like our agrarian type low-density society, and I think a lot of the other people that are here do. Again, the force that drives whether you build a house or not is whether you have the money or the credit for a mortgage. And the big negative on that is the attempted closure of fossil fuels in the United States has driven prices up tremendously because you have to have energy in order to make the tile that goes into a house. The flooring, most of it is out of petroleum products. The paints are the same way. On and on and on this goes. So I think the federal government, along with the Federal Reserve and federal policies, are to blame for this. And I don't want Beaufort County to go out and start wasting our time doing this. I also don't want us to fall into what the city of Washington is into, where the city is actually making loans to people to build houses.
Well, we've got a motion on the floor. We need a second, otherwise we're going to cut this off. All right, we got a second.
Let me finish with what I was saying. It won't take but a second. If John says not out of the box, we're not going to be proposing making loans to people and getting grants and going into the housing business. That is very disturbing to me because that leaves the option open for us to create another bureaucracy here in the county. So I just think this is a waste of time, and I'm not going to support it.
Well, you and I both know that none of that can happen without the approval of the board.
Yeah.
So anything...
know how weak the board is.
So anything that because they don't always agree with you doesn't mean they're weak.
Amen.
But the fact that the board has to approve any of that expenditure insulates you from anything that I would do on my own.
I'd like to just say something. I would heartily concur that inflation and lack of product in the area is 100% due to what's happening on the national stage. Eliminating the fossil fuel industry at every turn, paying people not to work, spending $4 trillion in 1 year. Too much money chasing.
Why are they doing it in Pitt County?
Excuse me, I have the floor. You'll have a chance to speak after I speak. Because that has caused the problem we have now. To say we're going to try to do something to stem that in Beaufort County, I promise you will only exacerbate the problem. If you're going to say, well, there's some things we can do, it's not going to cost that much, we're going to ask this citizen to pay money into this, and they will reward these others because it's for the good of everyone, it will only drive the cost higher and make it even tougher for us to provide affordable housing through the private sector, which is the way it does it. When there is a need, there will be folks building. Now, in the past, there has not been a need. That need is just surfacing now. It's going to take a while for people to feel confident enough to go and build, especially when we have an administration that has no clue what they're doing. Their economic plan is filled with holes. And we have inflation at the highest rate in 41 years, and it has started as soon as this man became president, and it has continued all because of public spending. Anything we do at this level will only make the matter worse. Let the private sector work. It will work through it. If it doesn't work through it, that's okay too. That's the way economies work. You want to know why Pitt County's doing so well? Because Pitt County has a college, it has industry, and it's been doing well for a long, long time. That will, in fact, help Beaufort County at some point. There will be some spillover. It will happen now. I am seeing a desire for people to buy property. Personally, I have land that is perkable. I have land that is close. I am, just with a few signs up, I'm getting prospects, lots of them. Not even put the stuff in the MLS yet. That will cause me to want to sell my property. When I sell my property, these people are paying for property. They've got to do something with that property or they'll just sit on it. One or the other, I don't care, but chances are they'll talk to a builder. When the market forces force the prices of building to go down, and that will happen at some point, we will not stay on this road to ruin forever. People will build houses, and they will build them a lot in this area.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. I'm ready for a vote. All those in favor of the recommendation from Commissioner Rebholz, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Thank you. Okay, we're down to Commissioner Richardson. The first one is communications among commissioners, chairman, and the manager.
Yeah, the key word in this is communications among the commissioners, the chairman and the manager. I'm not sure as a commissioner that I have been as well informed by what is going on in the background between the manager and the chairman, between the board and the manager and the board and the chairman. And I want to see this improve. I don't want to be left out. And I think one of the easiest things that we can do with this is that all the board members should receive a copy of all the communications that go on between the manager and the chairman, instead of part of the communications, instead of some of the communications. So, you know, I would make that as a motion.
Second.
Okay, let me make a comment. If I need information or I want to get something to Brian, I sent him an email and I copied the department head. And as far as I know, Brian, when he responds back in writing, it goes to all of the commissioners. Am I?
So let me address that. So if there's a discussion that's going on, if there's information that's being shared, that does go back to the entire board. If I get a request from a commissioner that's related to a personal matter that they're dealing with, I don't necessarily share that with the board. I mean, like if you were to ask me about something that's related to your property, something, a question, that wouldn't be a policy matter or something related that the board would need. So no, I wouldn't necessarily share that with the board. But it has been my practice since I've been here to try to make sure that the board gets that information. I know we've had some challenges, Commissioner Richardson, with the email that you have on the county side. We've tried to give you both the county and your personal email. So, I mean, I'm happy to try to make sure that if that's not working somehow or another, but it's been my practice all along, and I'll continue to do that. Now, I may have a conversation with the chairman about a procedural thing that may be going on that's a telephone call, but I mean, if there's something that is related to a policy question, I think that's, I mean, the rest of the board would need to tell me that I'm not doing that as well, because I think I'm trying to.
Well, I mean, you know, I think the chairman just said that he sent an email to the highway engineer and asked him to change something, whatever it was. The rest of the commissioners didn't see that. This is a board, and it functions entirely as a board. All of us should be served equally.
Well, let's go back to the DOT. Billy Warren has called me 4 or 5 times and has been to my house a couple of times. And about a month ago, I said, Billy, we're having trouble getting a response back from DOT. Tell me who you talked to. And so he called me, he gave me the number, and he said he came down here and rode with me. And so I said, well, I'll call him directly. That's the only time that I went around the county manager and I was just calling him to ask him to give us an update to try to speed it up. Because it was sitting still. I mean, just absolutely sitting still. But that was nothing in the world but following up on something that one of the people in the county asked us to do. Do you not do that? Do you not respond to citizens?
Yeah, but that's, you know, without rubbing salt in the wound, there's been several things over the years that have happened on the board that all the commissioners were not informed about. And I want to be sure that none of that is going on now.
Do you make requests to the managers that we know about, or you just call him or write him an email?
We do it all kinds of ways. I don't have a problem with what you described, and that is one person may make a request and when he answers everybody. I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying I want to be sure that as a commissioner that I am privy to all of the things that are going on between the manager and the chairman, because the chairman is only empowered to conduct a meeting. He is not empowered really to do anything else. The board functions as a board.
Well, and you make it sound like that we're doing something. I mean, I have one vote. I mean, I can't spend any money with unless the commissioners agree to it.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about information on ongoing items that should be distributed to everybody, getting everywhere that it should go. That there's no privileged communication among or between the three entities that I'm talking about. That's all I'm saying. And if that's the case, then everything's fine.
Well, it's fine.
But that hasn't always been the case, and that's why I'm bringing this up.
Well, if you can be more specific, be it.
Well, I'll be specific. When you dissolved the hospital board and took the trust fund, the board wasn't informed. You went out and hired lawyers. You didn't tell anybody. There's been several other incidents like that. And what I'm saying is we don't want something like that happening again.
I did not do that on my own. That was all done by a vote of the commissioners.
No, that was done by 2 or 3 commissioners acting with the manager in the back room. So if you want to get hostile with this, we will. This has been a pleasant conversation so far, and I'm willing to keep it that way. But I want to be sure that the fair, even-handed communication goes on with all of the commissioners, not some of the commissioners, not one of the commissioners, not with the chairman.
We're having a good discussion right now, and you've got the most agenda items on there. So we're spending time trying to accommodate you. So go to your next one on the jail.
We have a motion on the floor. Yeah, I made a motion.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, I get all the information I need. I mean, I don't know what he's talking about, and I'm not doubting what you say, but I get all the information I need every time I look on my phone. Brian sent an email, about 9 or 10 of us on there. If I'm not mistaken, CC the finance officer, CC Katie. So I'm well pleased. Now, anything that you do for your constituents, I don't want to know everything that you do. I mean, I'm just pleased with it like it is. I'm sincere. I work with one of my constituents Friday up until 5 o'clock to help them with something. I didn't pick up the phone and call y'all or call the manager. I've done the best I could to help that person with what they wanted.
And thank you. Do you want to read the motion?
The motion that I have is that the commissioners receive copies of all communications between the manager and the chairman.
Get it now. So all those in favor of the motion raise.
Excuse me. You're calling the question. I just want to say one thing, because I haven't spoken yet. We all know there's back channel communications. I hear about it. I'm not privileged to these back channel communications. I would like, if there's anything substantive, and we'll leave it up to you and the manager to decide what is substantive. If it comes to me and I find out about it, and you didn't think it was substantive, and it is substantive, and quantitatively, qualitatively, you can discern what is substantive and what is not substantive. Anybody with a full working brain can do such. So if it is substantive, if the normal person would think it is substantive, then these are items that should go to all the board members.
And I think we've been doing that.
No.
I think we've been doing that. Anybody else want to take a stab? Okay. All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Did you vote for it? You didn't.
Don't need the affirmative.
I didn't vote. So that's affirmative. Back channel or not. He's in the affirmative, so it's unanimous.
That's right.
All right. The next one is jail discussion. Commissioner Richards.
The jail population, this goes really with the next item, the nursing hours. I asked for the nursing hours for the jail, and the jail population goes with that. We had like 54 people in the jail on the last report, and I'm not sure that I'm reading this thing correctly, but we've got the November schedule for nursing at the jail, and some days there's 16 and 18 hours of nursing going on in the jail. And it looks like we have 3 nurses hired to cover the jail for 54 people. If you take 16 hours of nursing in the jail, 50 people in the jail, then each one of those inmates is getting about 20 or 25 minutes of service from a nurse. Before, when we had Southern, whatever it was, that was providing us with contract stuff, they were in the jail 4 hours a day, and they took care of things that went on their way. I'm just concerned that we are over nursing in the jail. And we need to look at this when the budget comes up, because this is a great expense. There's a lot of effort here. And
with only 54 people in the jail and 3 nurses. I mean, where does all that time go? What do these people do?
So, Mr. Chairman, I asked the sales director if he would stick around tonight so that he could answer any of those specific questions, because I anticipated that would be a question. So, Jim, if you could address those, please.
I might be back up here. I'm gonna go out with a bang, I guess. Yeah. I think, I don't know exactly every way of explaining it all, but I will say that 54 census means maybe 54 people are there at one time, but it's like turning over constantly. There's a bunch of people coming in, and they have to get processed. By law, they have to have a medical assessment, and they have to, once you find something, you have to treat it. So it's not 3 nurses for 54 people. It's for all the people that are rotating through. I think the average stays there a couple of weeks. So that's one part of it. The other part is we're required to cover the jail 24/7. So we're trying to cover it 24/7. We tried doing it early on with 2, and we couldn't, so I came to y'all and asked for that 3rd position, and y'all gave it to me. The condition being that it'd be an LPN and not an RN, because the LPN is a little bit cheaper. So that's what we have. We have 2 nurses and 1 LPN, but they do a lot of the same things. So the type of work they do is they do a physical assessment on all the people that come through the jail. They also conduct sick call every day. Sick call does come with a charge. So if an inmate wants to be seen by a nurse, then they do pay out of their canteen funds or whatever like that. Unless they're sick where they need a follow-up from that provider, then that is covered by that follow-up cost, not to them. We're also doing, whenever many of the people that come to the jail go through detox, which is actually a pretty time-consuming effort. So we're constantly doing what they call an evaluation to determine what level of detox they're in so that we can manage them. So Wednesdays we have the behavioral health people that come in, and so a nurse provides service to help get them connected with that provider as well. A lot of times we're having to deal with transporting people to central processing, which is another medical assessments that have to be done. We have MAT, or medicated assistant therapy, which has to be done. We vaccinate for COVID. We test for COVID. We test multiple people for COVID every day. We may have to refer them out for telepsych or for safekeeping. So these are some of the activities that they do during the day. The Tuesday and Wednesdays are the only days where I do have some 3 nurses in there. I got to get them 40 hours a week, and I also got to think about not abusing their time, trying to keep them there till 10 o'clock at night. So it's a creative way of us trying to make sure that we're covering them at least from 7 in the morning till 8 in the afternoon for all medical care. Also on the weekends, we have a nurse that comes in and does care. So on Tuesday and Wednesday, oftentimes I have the 2 nurses there, or 3 nurses, the 2 nurses in the LPN, for 6 hours of overlap. It's 12 hours during the whole week that I have 3 nurses there. The rest of the time it's either 1 or 2. During that time period, oftentimes they've earned comp time because they got called at 2 o'clock in the morning or had to come in and do something at the jail. So on Tuesday or Wednesday, they'll take off some time so that they get their 40 hours or down to 40 hours. If they have appointments, medical appointments and stuff like that, we ask them to make them on Tuesdays and Wednesdays so we can accommodate them, so they'll take their sick leave. The nurses have been very cooperative with that. And right now, we are transferring over from the jail paper versions to electronic medical records so that they can, so oftentimes the nurses will be taking paper records, scanning them and documenting them so we'll keep them busy. Lastly, if they don't have anything to do, or where there is extra staff, then they'll come over to the health department and help with work over there. So that's why we have 3 nurses to cover it.
Well, I'm just concerned that we did this with 4 hours a day before with 100 people, and now it's taken all of this time with half of those people in there. The other thing that I would say is, I thought we did away with comp time 20 years ago.
Well, we got an exception for the RNs because they're working midnights and coming in, and they're working extra hours and stuff like that.
Well, we need to look at this again come budget time, because there's a lot of money here, there's a lot of help here, there's a lot of people getting a lot of care at the taxpayers' expense. That, in my opinion, is not necessary. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You want to go to the VITA and emergency room?
Not me.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
It worked out well for the job.
Thank you, Jim.
Well, I guess, who's on the board over there, Jerry? You on the board?
I am.
Okay.
I am, and no one really wants to come and talk to you.
I know they don't want to come and talk to me because I'm going to ask them some really embarrassing questions.
But they've asked all the questions that you have, you'll submit them, they will answer them all.
No, I'm not going to play that game.
Well, Hood, to be perfectly honest with you, there's no way you can command them to come here.
Well, what I'm going to ask then is for the clerk to provide all the commissioners with a copy of the Vidant lease.
Except this one.
We need to read that lease, and we need to see what Vidant agreed to do. And if there's a problem with the lease, we have an attorney.
Don't send it to me.
So I'm going to ask again for somebody from Vidant to come, and let's talk about how to provide emergency care in Beaufort County, because they've essentially shut down all services except day services in Belhaven, which they promised several people. They didn't get it in writing, but they promised that they would provide more service down there, and they're not doing it. And that's one of the ways to take the pressure off the emergency room, because that emergency room was a big deal. It still is a big deal, and we need to read the lease, see what we're supposed to be doing. If they want to play hardball, I can play hardball if this board's willing to.
Please, that lease is probably two trees long. Don't send it to me, because I'm not on no witch hunt here.
This is not a witch hunt. I'm getting complaints from people. People are dying because of the lack of care in that emergency room is what I'm hearing, and I'm hearing it from not more than one person.
People dying all over the world, Hood.
So you don't care if they die?
Yes, I care to die.
Well,
I can't help it. The only way you stop it from dying, you need to pray to it.
I'm going to do what I can to help the people of Beaufort County. You are in it because the county...
Don't send me that.
The county leased that hospital to Vidant for 30 years.
You're right, excuse me. Please, don't send me that massive lease. I'm going to tell you now, I'm not going to read it. And I will go off the limb and tell you, out of all 7 of us here, there won't be none of us read it.
Well, I'm going to tell you this, you have a responsibility as a commissioner, and if you're running from your responsibility, you need to consider resigning.
Well, I tell you what. Please don't send it. I'm running from my responsibility. I do not run the hospital. Please don't send it to me. I'm telling you, I'm not going to read it.
Okay, is there any way you can send it in a digital format? You can? I'd like to take it in digital format.
Okay, you want to go to combat and drug use in Beaufort County?
Well, we're back to combating drug use in Beaufort County, and again, this board has been benign in doing anything about drug use. You seem to be unconcerned about drug use in Beaufort County. The fact that all this fentanyl is coming in here, 100,000 people in the United States died from drug use last year, and we're not willing to do anything. I want to ask the commissioners again, please, let's send a team to Raleigh to lobby the legislature on increasing the fines and the time in prison for selling drugs. Notice I didn't say for using drugs, I said for selling drugs. So what do you want to do? That's a motion.
Look, Hood, can you expand your motion to include discussion of the border? Because that's where a lot of fentanyl's coming in across the southern borders. It's wide open.
Well, I think it includes all of the above. I think
yeah,
it's broad-based.
I think I mean, it's been 2 years that the border's been wide open, and now states, the true border states, I say we're all border states, we're going to be border states, but the true physical border states are now suing in court and federal court, and it is getting to the Supreme Court, and it looks like there's going to be some great discussion on what's the duties of the federal government if there are laws on the book and the executive, which is the Biden administration, such as it is, if they choose not to follow the law or enforce the law, then is that a lawless government or not? And that's what's going to be coming into discussion at some of these federal courts. But it's taken 2 years, and we've had a lot of damage done in this country in the meantime. So you're right, it's 100,000 deaths last year that we know of from opioid overdoses, from that poison. And people talk about, well, there was 500 deaths from gun violence and families and things like that, or shootings or whatever. 500 compared to 100,000, big disparity. So we're at the point now that we've had 1.8 Vietnams last year, in 1 year. And that's going to be increasing if something isn't done. So we do include it to...
Yes, I include that in the motion, yes.
Okay.
You're seconding it?
Yes.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Those opposed?
4. Which way are you voting?
Go lead the delegation.
Yeah, I can do that. Which way are you voting? Did you vote?
Right now, I thought it was 4-3.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's all aboard. That takes care of it. I just didn't see the chairman vote. All right. Okay. If that's the case, at our next meeting, we'll discuss how we're going to do this and who wants to go and how we can arrange to get this done. Well, anybody that wants to go can go.
Well, I think it would be a good idea. We've got a new sheriff coming. Maybe he would be interested in going up there to try to get support.
Okay. All right. Then we need to set up a meeting.
And we do have a new senator representing Beaufort County. So.
Okay. Who was it that's interested in participating in this?
It'll be them.
Who else?
Not me.
Not you. Not you. Not you. Not you. Not you. So
just been up there for the legislative conference.
Well, Stan and I can take care of this.
Yes.
Let's ask the sheriff.
And the sheriff. Yeah, we'll talk to the sheriff. Okay.
Cotton come to home.
Okay. All right. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well, wait a minute. We got illegal immigrants.
Oh, I thought
I'm only going to take a second.
I thought we were talking about southern border.
Well, Stan segued into it, so he took care of the issue.
Okay.
But I just want to say this. We do have illegals coming into Beaufort County. I'm talking to contractors who tell me how cheap they're getting work done. And this is because of illegals. They pay these people virtually nothing. They're coming into Pitt County. The nonprofits are picking them up in Pitt County, and they're dispersing them into our community. So we need to be aware of this. This is something we need to think about how we're going to control, because they're taking jobs away from locals, and these people are working for slave wages. So that takes care of that.
Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. I'll second.
I'm in favor.
All those in favor, raise your right hand.